When it comes to your training, what's with the no shoes thing?
It's just part of there's a movement online, honestly, but I just discovered it by accident. I wore Converse my whole life up until I was 20 years old, and I started to get bunions on my foot where my toes were just like angled way far out to like outwards, and then the side of my foot started to really hurt. And then I was also getting really bad knee pain. And I was like, what the fuck's wrong with my feet? And I realized my feet don't fit in Converse. I have really wide feet. I'm a size 13, like E, like super wide. And I'm wearing the most narrow shoe you could fathom. So I decided to just start taking it off and training barefoot. I started rocking like socks and Birkenstocks, which people used to roast me for, but now it's in style. So I'm cool now.
Trendsetter.
Working out in the gym, it just felt better to like, I was doing like toe exercises where I would spread my toes. I was wearing toe spacers, and then just the gym was just a place where I didn't have to wear shoes, so I could like train in socks, and I just felt better. And over time, I didn't do a whole lot of other things, a few other things, but my knees just started to feel better. My squat started to feel a little bit more natural.
How do you prioritize recovery and rest in your program? What is it that you're focusing on for the biggest winners?
It's a huge avenue, but sleep is probably like the number one thing. And whether it's brain health, aging, or just like high performance, sleep is like one of the most important aspects anyone can have. You lose any bit of sleep than you're used to, and your body just suffers more than you can even like understand. So I think being super regimented on sleep, and that's why like when I'm in different time zones, I'm like, I'm not setting an alarm. Some people believe you should create your circadian rhythm as fast as possible. No, I'm just going to get 8 hours no matter what. I'm tired, I'm just going to sleep. So I let myself just get at least 8 hours of sleep. And I usually aim for 9 because I don't sleep through the whole night fully. But I think sleep has been absolutely huge. And honestly, at a point in my career when I was 21 and I started to get a bit more injuries and just like starting to feel like adrenal fatigue almost, I was training like 6-7 days a week for like 3 hours. I was like, I feel like I need to tone this back a bit. And then I started training 5 days a week for 3 hours. And then I realized I had a little bit more progress. And then a year later, I was like, that was catching up to me. So I'm like, okay, what if I train like 3 days on, 1 day off, but I'm only in the gym for like an hour and a half or max 2 hours, including warm up and stuff. And I just noticed as I was pulling away from that kind of like volume, essentially, I actually started to progress more and feel better. I started to feel like I was like going the reverse way of aging. So allowing myself to have more time to recover actually made me stronger.
What about bad habits? So you've spoken about all of the things that you try and get done.
Yeah.
What are the things that you think hold you back, or if you were able to get rid of them, your quality of life would improve, or you would be a better athlete or a better person?
I mean, this year was the ability to say no. Something that was a lot of opportunity coming my way. Just, I said yes to way too many things, and I traveled like every week for like almost 4 months, I think, and I was barely home, and I didn't even understand that how much it was impacting me until I was getting the end, and I was just on edge, stressed out, like didn't feel good, felt like I was behind on my training where I should be, and was just like snappy and just didn't feel good. And I was just like, I felt like I had to do these things. Like I'm a business owner now rather than just like sponsored by someone. So like I feel like required to go to these events. I had already pre-planned these other seminars I've done or meet and greets in Europe and like different countries and meeting manufacturers in India and all over the place. And last year I was always like, no travel, I got to focus. And this year I was just like saying yes to everything because I felt like I had to. And I was like, no, you do not fucking have to do that bullshit. I'm never doing that again. So one thing is definitely just being able to speak up more for myself and be like, no, I'm not doing that, no matter how much I get pushed to do it, because I just
a lot of the time you're being pushed by yourself, right?
Often. Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's not like there's some external person saying, Chris, you need to go and do the whatever thing. It's your own drive, your own desire to go and do more stuff.
We were talking about like the chasing of more and more success, but you're sacrificing your current life to have more success, but even though you're less happy with the way you're actually living your life, what's actually the point of that? This is the most amazing time of my life, and I'm just trying to like run through it and be busy all the time and not sit down and enjoy it. Or do I want to step back and maybe have less potential business success, but 98% of it still, but also be more enjoying of this time of my youth and in the middle of like my golden years?
It's such an important story. Have you heard about the parable of the Mexican fisherman? Have you heard this?
No.
An American investment banker was at the pier of a small coastal Mexican village when a small boat with just one fisherman docked. Inside the small boat were several large yellowfin tuna. The American complimented the Mexican on the quality of his fish and asked how long it took to catch them. The Mexican replied, only a little while. The American then asked why he didn't stay out longer and catch more fish. The Mexican said he had enough to support his family's immediate needs. The American then asked, but what do you do with the rest of your time? The Mexican fisherman said, I sleep late, fish a little, play with my children, take siestas with my wife, Maria, and stroll into the village each evening where I sip wine and play guitar with my amigos. I have a full and busy life. The American scoffed. I have an MBA from Harvard and can help you, he said. You should spend more time fishing and with the proceeds buy a bigger boat. With the proceeds from the bigger boat, you could buy several boats and eventually you would have a fleet of fishing boats. Instead of selling your catch to a middleman, you could sell directly to the processor, eventually opening up your own cannery. You could control the product, processing and distribution, he said. Of course, you would need to leave this small coastal fishing village and move to Mexico City, then Los Angeles, and eventually to New York, where you would run your expanding enterprise. The Mexican fisherman asked, but how long will all of this take? To which the American replied, 15 to 20 years or so. But then what? Asked the Mexican. The American laughed and said, well, that's the best part. When the time was right, you would announce an IPO, sell your company's stock to the public, and become very rich. You would make millions. Millions? Then what? The American said, then you could retire, move to a small coastal fishing village where you could sleep late, fish a little, play with your kids, take siestas with your wife, and stroll to the village in the evening where you could sip wine and play guitar with your amigos. Life is often simpler than we make it.
Yeah.
So good.
That's good. Yeah, that's so accurate.
I've heard you say that in the past there was compounds and things that you would have taken that now you're like, this is it's too dangerous. What are the things that for you are like off the table with regards to this is too much, this is too risky for me?
The biggest one is like trend.
Yeah.
The good old trend that like there's guys who literally like base their social media off that now. It's just like a meme of the internet, of the gym culture. And I don't even think people realize the impact that these jokes and memes have on like people coming up who just see you constantly joking and talking about saying you need more of it to like be better and feel stronger and all this shit. But that's probably the most toxic thing you can put in your body. And I've done it in the past, but I don't anymore. I just haven't touched it in like 5 years.
Why?
Just the toxicity it causes in your body. Like it harms your kidneys, your liver, just everything that takes your body to process it and go through it. It's just not natural. It's not meant to be in your body. And it makes you strong as fuck. And people say they feel like they're on top of the world when they take it. But to me, that's not really worth the health risk anymore. And another reason why I love Classic Physique is because I hit a weight cap and I was close to my weight cap like 3 years ago. Not at it, but I could have taken more shit and really tapped out and been at the point where I couldn't put on any more weight, or I could actually take less shit and force myself to work harder, be more consistent with my diet and my training and my recovery, and then still get that result. But it would just be a little bit more effort. You know, there's a peak with no weight cap probably needs to do everything to be the best. But if I can just still put in the discipline and the work and then take out some of the less shit that's hard on my body, then I'm on the same point that I would be. It's just a little bit more effort.
It says it all that you, as somebody who is competing at the highest standard of bodybuilding on the planet, is still finding compounds where you're like, that's off the table. Yeah. That's too much.
For sure. You can always find things to take out and things to add in and ways to get better, things that are like unnecessary, and just kind of fine tuning. And, you know, like a lot of any type of success is getting the most out of the least. And what other effort? The amount of work you put in a day, the amount of shit you put in your body, the amount of training even you do. It's just being as efficient as possible so that you're getting maximum result from minimum effort, essentially.
What is the ratio of attention that you get from guys versus girls?
Oh, like 90-10. In favor of men, of course, literally. And I think my Instagram statistics are like 91% men. Anyone who thinks that this life is going to get you girls,
does it say that like the king of the aesthetics bro era is just swimming in men? Yeah, like there's just men everywhere, and all of these guys that think I'm going to go to the gym and if I get buff, then I'm going to get loads of attention from girls. It's like,
which also there's a lot of respect in that, because let's say you start doing something for the attention of women, and then in the end you don't get it, but you realize how much you love it, so you keep doing it, and your bros are like, that's dope. And like, you're not doing it so your bros love you, but you're doing it now because you actually love to do it, rather than just getting a girl, you know? Yeah. So there's like a little bit more meaning in doing it for yourself and just because you love training.
Come for the girls, stay for the gains.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So even from a young age, I literally remember thinking like, all these compliments I'm getting, these people don't even know who I am. These people don't even they can say whatever they want about me, but it's just this idea of me they're talking about, not actually me. So the compliments, while I'm grateful for it and the support and it means a lot to me, they don't know who I am. It doesn't make me better or worse, whatever they say. So when negativity comes in and people say anything bad, they're the same. They're both just kind of like out there, and it doesn't really mean anything. You know, if like my mom came up to me and be like, you're being a really fucking shitty person, I'd be like, what the fuck? Like my heart would sink. I'd change my whole life. But like if someone on the street comes up and be like, you're this, that, I'd be like,
you don't even know me.
Yeah, like what?
Your mind is naturally going to gravitate toward these meaner comments. We have this negativity bias that we see.
Yeah.
How have you trained yourself? Do you look? Is there a strategy behind this for how you try and avoid that seeping in? I imagine if you're 3 weeks out from prep with everything in the toilet and you feel like crap and you've got 1,500 calories to look forward to today, half of which is from broccoli, like the last thing that you want to see is someone saying something mean on the internet.
For sure, yeah.
So where do you go to deal with that?
I mean, there's a lot of things and it's been a transition, but now at this point when I'm in prep, I mute everything. All notifications are off. I don't look at my comments. I don't really look at anything. And I would just rather that not seep into me. On a baseline, I can always bring myself back to like what I said, understanding these people don't know me, but I'm obviously still affected by certain things that hit me. But again, if something affects me, it's because of something I have unhealed inside of myself. Yep. It comes back to like where I'm hurting, not so much what other people are or what they're thinking of me. So like an example of something that hit me a few years ago, but it wasn't online. It was someone in person, and they were just fucking around with me. We're bantering. We're guys. We're like, we give each other shit. And he said something like, "Oh wow, when you were a kid, like girls must have been like, here's this good-looking, tall, jacked, handsome guy. Come up to him, and then you open your mouth, and they hear your voice and that lisp, and they're like, what the fuck?" And they're like, fuck this guy, and they leave you alone. And I remember like feeling like a kid again, just getting this washed over embarrassment, and just like feeling like fucking like 15 years old again. And I was like, wow. Like I used to be teased a little bit for my lisp, and I'm like, that still is kind of in there a little bit. But that's not because this guy's an asshole. That's because when I was a kid, someone made me feel like shit about it, and I never really like gave that kid like the love and permission, myself being that kid, the love and permission to like be okay with that and understanding that doesn't represent himself. So I think just taking those moments and using them as an opportunity to go inside yourself and kind of like give your like younger self a little bit of love and compassion, who like didn't get it maybe when he was younger because he felt like alone. Yep. To go back and try and heal those periods of your life rather than being angry at the other person, because I mean that's really all that is to it. Because if you're giving the power to the person, then you're just focusing on them and you're going to continuously live in that pain. It doesn't help you, and they don't give a fuck. They're just throwing shit at you. They don't care what they want you to react.
It's hard to not have a chip on your shoulder because of that though, right? Like how have you managed to get rid of that, wanting to prove these people wrong? And you've seen the ways that people who were mistreated or felt lonely when they were younger, that can become malignant, right, as they grow up. Have you does it appear on your shoulder every so often that you want to kind of
like there's two people who get affected by it in different ways, and I was never the one who got angry and like the chip on my shoulder. I kind of like felt shitty about myself. I felt embarrassed and like, yeah, you're right, I am fucking stupid. I do sound stupid when I talk. Like I should just shut up and sit over here in the quiet. Like I was more like, and it never led to aggression in me or like a chip on my shoulder. It was more of a like, you're right, you are kind of worthless, just go stand over there. So that was more of like, that's why when I say what I needed to work on was more empathy and compassion for myself and just like accepting my humanity, my imperfection, rather than like, I mean, it's all the same thing, but mine was more focused on like not shaming myself rather than like bringing down a level of aggression and anger.